So hey guys, this is a grammar lesson about the present perfect tense, and we're going to compare that with the simple past. The topic of these stories will be your work experience. So I want to start with a funny story. This is based on a true story. My friend was a student and he needed a job, but he couldn't find one, and he was getting worried. So he told people that he had a landscaping business called Mike's Landscaping. And one day somebody asked him, have you ever aerated a lawn? Have you ever aerated a lawn? And Mike didn't know what that was. However, Mike needed the money. Sure, he lied. I have. And then the other person said, do you have an aerator? No, he answered, but I've used one. He lied again. So, okay, come to my house at 3 p.m. on Friday. I need you to aerate my lawn. So Mike went to Home Depot and rented an aerator for the one day. It cost him $100. He read the manual, then he went to the man's house and did his job. The man paid him $250. And that's how Mike started his landscaping business. He's been a landscaper for 10 years now. So I want you to look really quickly at these sentences. All of these sentences, what they have in common is the verb have. So this one says have, and this apostrophe S means has. And this lesson is about using the verb have as kind of like a second past tense. It's this way of referring to things that happened in the past. So probably the best question is, what's the difference between present perfect and just simple past? We use have plus the past participle to talk about things that happened in the past when the specific time is not given. So here's an example with a specific time. I washed the dishes last night. So this last night, that is the specific time that I washed the dishes. A sentence with present perfect is going to refer to something more general. I have washed dishes, but I have not worked as a cook, for example. So if I say I have washed dishes, that's not talking about any specific time. It's kind of talking about in general, in my life, I have washed dishes. So it's important to understand the difference between these two verb constructions, and we're going to look at a couple more examples just to make it really clear. So I can say I finished my project yesterday. What's that makes it specific? Yesterday. That's a situation for the simple past. On the other hand, I have finished 3 projects in this class so far. So when I say I have finished 3 projects, I'm not talking about like the exact time when I finished them. I just saying like that by now they're finished. So sometime before now they were finished. For simple past, I can say last week I prepared my big job application and turned it in. So I prepared it and I turned it in. What makes it specific? The phrase last week. And then here for present perfect, I can say I have turned in my job application. Now I'm waiting to get a call. So in this situation, like it's not clear. The person is not telling us exactly when the action happened. All right. So I want you to, based on what you know so far, I want you to try to fill in the blank with simple past or present perfect. So it's either going to be in the blank the word worked or the phrase have worked. And go ahead and pause the video, get out a piece of paper and write down your answers on a piece of paper. All right, guys, let's check to see if you had the same answers as me. So number 1 is talking about in the past. So that's kind of a general type of sentence. The correct answer is I have worked as a hairstylist in the past. Number 2, last December. Last December is a specific time, so this one's going to be different. Last December, I worked as a hairstylist to earn a little extra money. Now, number 3. There's no mention of any specific time, so we have to say, I have worked as a hairstylist and a secretary. Number 4. Again, there's no, this person doesn't tell us about the time, so we have to use the general, I have worked as a hairstylist, but now I want a different job. And number 5, I have worked as a hairstylist and I can paint nails professionally too. So I hope that makes sense to you. Number 2 is different. And the big difference about number 2 is that it has this specific time shown. Okay, pause the video and do a little extra practice. This is about a man who sells cars. Ready for the answers? So you should have. I have worked as a salesman in the past. When I lived in my country, this is a tricky one, but this phrase, when I lived in my country, makes the time specific. I worked as a car salesman for Toyota. Number 8, in my life. This phrase, in my life, is very big, very broad, very general. So we're going to use present perfect again. In my life, I have worked in car sales and in real estate. Number 9. I have worked in other jobs too, but I prefer working in sales. So there's no time mentioned here. And number 10 has this word yesterday. That makes it specific. I worked for 10 hours yesterday. It was a busy day. So I hope that's clear so far. Now, let's go to the next part of the lesson. When we use the word have plus past participle, we call this the present perfect. So that combination there is called present perfect. For example, I have washed dishes. I have worked as a cook. I have been a server. And the helping verb have is in the present tense. If we are talking about one person, we use the word has. So this is any situation with he or she. You need to put S on the end of that verb. Jose has managed a restaurant. He has created weekly schedules for the workers. He has taken care of the budget too. So I want you to practice just paying attention to who is in that subject. Is it that one man and one woman? In the case of he or she, then you need has. Or if that's plural, then you need to use the verb have. So I want to do the first one for you, and then I want you to pause to do 12 and 13 by yourself. So for Pablo, he has experience with this job, security guard. To make our sentence, we will say, Pablo has worked as a security guard. So in this case, we say has with the S. Pause your video, write a sentence for Mariam, and write a sentence for Weiss and Reza. Ready to check? For Mariam, Mariam has worked as a college professor. For number 13, Weiss and Reza have worked as mechanics. So make sure you have the VE at the end of that word. Now, there are some special verbs. For regular verbs, the past participle is the same as the past tense form. So I make the past tense with worked, and I make the present perfect have plus the past participle. And I also use worked because for these ED verbs, the past tense and past participle look the same. For example, last year I learned to use Microsoft Access, and I have learned many computer programs in the past. Or I worked as a teacher from 2005 to 2013. I have worked as a school principal too. I helped my coworker with the paperwork last week, and I have helped 2 other people with their papers too. So in this case, you just have to like make that decision. Are you going to use the word have or not? And then the second verb here will just be the verb with the ed form. To make it a little bit interesting or a little bit complicated, for some verbs there is an irregular form or a third form of the verb. So for be, the past tense is was or were, but the past participle is been. For get, the past tense is got, but the past participle is gotten. Take, took, taken. Drive, drove, driven. And so for these verbs, when you make a present perfect construction, you use have as the helping verb, then you need to use the special form of the main verb later. For example, in my country, I was a farmer, but I have been a farm worker in the US too. I got my certificate in ELW 906 in April of 2016. I have gotten a first aid certificate too. I took classes in accounting when I was younger, and since then I have taken some classes in management. So that's something to be careful of. If you see a verb here, that's one of these exceptions. You have to remember to use the irregular form. That's the end of this presentation. I'm going to give you a quiz after this to practice, and wish you good luck.